welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to film a really fun video. I feel like these are some of my favorite videos to watch on YouTube, and that is my bookshelf tour. I feel like I finally am getting them to a point where I'm really happy with them and I like the way that they're organized. My room as a whole still needs a lot of work, but my bookshelves, I just absolutely love them. Every time I walk into this room, they're like the forefront of what I see, and yeah, I just love them. And I just kind of reorganized some things recently, so I have a few spots that are like a little bit open, but I have like ideas for the books that are going to go there. While I go through it, I'm going to kind of let you guys know which books I've read, which ones I haven't, just kind of my thoughts on how they're organized. And I have a few, I'm gonna see if I might have a few little Christmas decorations that I'm kind of starting to slowly put, but I'm definitely not fully decorated. Just I had them, I took down the fall ones because I feel like I wasn't enjoying those. They were more Halloween themed, and so I've started kind of putting some Christmas stuff up, but I still need to add some more stuff to it. But these are what my shelves look like right now, so let's just jump right into it. So starting at the very top of my shelves, I have just some of my like Pokemon and Harry Potter and just kind of like stuffed animals up here, because this way they're still like on display in my room, but my cat can't get to them because with the material that they are, I feel like his claws just like destroy them. So up at the top I just have a few of these stuffed animals. Like I said, most of them are Pokemon, but I do have my Ravenclaw Squishmallow up there, as well as this peach that flips inside out to an orange that I just thought was really cute and normally sits on my chair in here, but I kind of took it down just to fill up some space up above. So up on these top two shelves, I feel like they're kind of more display shelves. So starting on this top shelf, I have my Fourth Wing books here. So I have this isn't the original copy of Fourth Wing. I wanted that one, but I didn't realize how popular the book was going to be. And when I first like started hearing about it, I was reading Throne of Glass at the time and was like, oh, I'll buy it later, like it'll be fine. And then obviously it sold out. So when they had this special edition, I knew I wanted it just because I knew it was a series that I was going to really enjoy. So I have two copies of Fourth Wing, and then I have my copy of Iron Flame that I am still trying to make my way through. I'm still only like 130 pages in, but I'm working on it. I'm trying to get through it. And then up on here, I just have this little like decorative little stocking hat, and then I have a ton of these throughout my shelves. They are just these little like model kits that you can buy of a bunch of different Pokemon, so I ended up like assembling those. They're kind of like Legos. So then moving over, I have this little picture frame that my parents bought for me when I moved away, and I just randomly got it in the mail, and it says, "I will always be with you," but then my parents themselves crossed off the I and put we. And I don't know, I just thought it was really sweet, and so this just kind of stays right up here. And then right next to it, I have a snow globe that I had gifted to my grandma, and then when she passed away, I got it back. And so I just always keep this up here. It's a nice little reminder of her. And I don't know, she loved cardinals. She loved like all birds in general, but cardinals were some of her favorites. So they just always remind me of her, and so that just will always be on every bookshelf that I own. I will always have like a little piece of her here. So then moving over here, we have Powerless and Reckless, and then I have Powerful kind of facing the front because I don't like the way that it looks like sideways with them. I think once the series is completed, I might like put it fully in front, but I don't know, I kind of like that one just kind of turned out on display. So then behind Powerful, I have a couple of extra books here. They're all kind of like just darker colored fantasy books. So I have one copy of Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom up here, but these were some of the books that like initially got me back into reading. These next three are three that I haven't read yet, but they're just the first books in series. So I have Red Rising by Pierce Brown, Light Lark by Alex Astor, and then Flamecaster. So ones that I want to get to at some point, but they're not necessarily on my radar right now. But I don't know, I would really like to get to Light Lark by the end of the year, just because the third book just came out. But we will see. I don't necessarily have like a time planned to read it yet. So this next top shelf is another kind of display shelf. So on here I have my box set of Harry Potter, and then I have this little like Eevee figurine that my brother bought for me. It was like a random like mystery thing that he got because there was a bunch of like really cute Pokemon in there, and it just happened to be that it was the Eevee one, and Eevee is like my all-time favorite Pokemon. Then going over, I have my special editions of books. Let me turn this to the other side. But I have, I don't even know what this is called, Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. I have not read it yet, but I bought this I think last year for my birthday, just because I saw it at Barnes & Noble and I loved the way it looked. So then working our way up, we have more special editions. I have my special editions of Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, and these are like some of my most prized possessions because, I don't know, that's just one of my favorite duologies. I loved the characters, I loved the storyline, the concept, the writing, all of it, and I truly give like praise to that book for getting me back into reading, because it was one of the first, like, I feel like real books that I read after college when I got back into reading, and I feel like I never looked back from that point. So, and then over here I was a part of Fairy Loop for 3 months, so I have 3 copies of books from there. But then I just kind of found myself, same with Book of the Month, I found myself getting too many books that I wasn't like in the mood for at the time, and so I stopped doing that because my book collection was just growing way too quickly, so I kind of stopped getting those. But I have One Dark Window, Belladonna, and The Ones We Burn. But I have these ones just kind of turned so that the sprayed edges are what's showing. And then I just keep in front of them this little like vining plant from IKEA that I just like the way it kind of looks going down. Alright, so working our way down to the next level of shelves, I have my Throne of Glass series here. I have all of them in the new paperback covers. Personally, I just liked the way these covers looked, and I actually pre-ordered them. And I think I started reading the first Throne of Glass book on my Kindle, and so when I got them I could have gotten either cover, and like, so personally I just liked the way these ones looked. I liked the colors of them. Overall, I just liked the aesthetic of these ones better than the original copies. But this whole shelf is kind of like my Sarah J. Maas shelf. I don't own physical copies of ACOTAR yet. I've gone back and forth on if I want to buy them or not, but I feel like they've already changed the covers of those books once, like in the middle of the series, and so I don't know, I feel like I've read all of them so far on my Kindle, and I'd rather wait until the series is completed and decide if I want to buy it then. But then I do have my hardcover copies of the Crescent City series over here. I still have yet to read the last one. I put myself in a reading slump rereading the first 2 and just couldn't get myself convinced to read the third one. Another one of the little like model kits, and this one is Kirby, and I just thought this one was kind of cute. I have this little plant back here that I think I got from like TJ Maxx, and then I have just another little Pokemon one over here. So then if we go over to the next shelf, I have just kind of like a random selection of books over here. The shelf is where unread books kind of start happening. This whole pile is a pile of unread books, and it is just a bunch of random fantasy series, just like the first books in a bunch of series, and I like to keep some of these on hand because then if I decide I want to read them, I have them already, because I am such a mood reader. I Beasts of Prey, which I was really excited when this book came out, and I ended up, like, I think I got it off of eBay, a special edition of the paperback, because I liked the way it looked. And it was honestly, I think, one of the first books that I got when I got back into reading, but I just feel like there were so many other books that I wanted to read first. And then I have The Prison Healer, which is not like on my priority TBR, but it's definitely more on my radar than other books. I have Guild by Raven Kennedy, Scythe by Neil Shusterman, The Curse of Saints, which was one that I haven't heard anyone talk about, but I found it on a Barnes & Noble table and picked it up because I thought it sounded really interesting. I have The Grace Year, which I feel like was popular for, like, I feel like maybe a month or so. I heard a number of people talking about it. And then I have The Cruel Prince, which I feel like is a very polarizing book. I've heard some people absolutely love that series and some people are very let down by it, so I'm not sure how I feel about that book, but at some point in time I would like to get to it. So then I have the Hunger Games trilogy, and I have the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which that's the only book in that series that I have not read. And then I have the Kingdom of the Wicked series, which I have read all of these, and they're okay. I feel like I wouldn't necessarily recommend them as like, oh, these were books that I absolutely loved, but I still enjoyed them. I had a good time while I was reading them. And I have the paperbacks of Once Upon a Broken Heart and The Ballad of Never After, and these are both the Barnes & Noble exclusive editions, and I just absolutely love the colors of these books. And I don't know, I'm definitely a paperback reader. I don't really like hardcover books that much, so I will be getting the last one in paperback as well. But I want to read Caraval before I get into these, and Caraval is still on my like end of year TBR, so I'm hoping to get to these at like the beginning of next year, maybe in the spring. I feel like it would be a good time to read these. The special edition of Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, mostly just because I love the way that the end pages look. Like, they kind of look a little bit like distressed. I want to get to that book at some point. I just don't know if it's necessarily my style of book. I feel like I'm kind of getting into like some romantasy, but my fantasy books I tend to like a little bit more action-packed, which is why I think I like Throne of Glass more than ACOTAR. Over here I also have, I don't think this is my official college tassels. I think it's just like a free one that we got with like graduation stuff. I have another little Pokemon figurine, and then I have this little, it's supposed to be an Easter decoration, but it's this little egg and it has glasses, and my dad and I have matching ones, and they have like slightly different shaped glasses, and we just determined that they looked like the two of us when we wore our glasses. So he keeps one on his desk at his office at all times, and I keep this one on my bookshelf at all times. Here on this corner, these don't really fit in, but I didn't really have a better place to put them. These are my Emily Henry books. I have Funny Story, Beach Read, People Meet on Vacation, and Happy Place. I have not read Funny Story yet. I want to get to that one. I also haven't read Book Lovers yet, so I need to pick up that one at some point as well. In this corner I also keep this, it's kind of melting, but I have this little candle that my friend and I made, where we, like, she had a whole kit of things. They're just like little woodwick candles, and we got to pick like the scents that we put in them and the colors. So alright, so working our way down to the next row of shelves, Fire Shatter Me collection here, and I really love the way that this somehow perfectly lines up with like the height of an average book. And then I have a couple more of these little Pokemon things. These ones are both with Piplup on them. Piplup is one of my other favorite Pokemon. I have read the entire Shatter Me series. I didn't love it, but it wasn't bad. So then I have the Poppy War trilogy. I read the first book. I enjoyed it. It was definitely very politic heavy, and I hope to at some point get to the next two in the series. Vicious and Vengeful, which I've read both of, and then the Darker Shade of Magic trilogy, which I've read the first one, and then I started reading the second one and just was a little bit bored. I've heard people say that once you get past, like I think it was like 100 pages, it really picks up. So then I have my Elite Bardugo section, and I have King of Scars and Rule of Wolves. And I don't know if this is just, I think it's just a duology. I haven't read either of them. And then I have Shadow and Bone, which I got after I read Six of Crows because I loved it so much. But I've kind of wanted to spread out my reading of them because I loved Six of Crows so much that I feel like I don't want to be let down by this series. And then I have my Caraval trilogy next. They said I want to try to finish those this year. I haven't started them yet, but Caraval was on my October TBR, and it's still on my radar for the end of the year. And then this is my other candle that I made. So then moving into this next shelf, I have, this is kind of like my mystery thriller shelf. I have A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which I haven't read that series. I've heard really good things. I find it a little hard for myself to get into like mystery series, just because I feel like when I read a mystery I want it to be like a palate cleanser for a fantasy book. But then I have Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney, which I did read and I really enjoyed that one. I liked Daisy Darker better, but I did really enjoy this book. I have That's Not by Name. This was a like Barnes & Noble book club pick, and so it was on a little end table there. I haven't read it yet, but at the same time I got that, I got All Good People Here, which I did read, and I honestly don't remember anything about that book. So then I have The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. I was just really intrigued by the cover of this book. I don't really know what it's about, but I've heard about her writing before. I know she's a very popular like mystery thriller author. So then I have my Frida McFadden section. I have the Housemaid trilogy, which I've read all of those, and I think I liked them, the first one the most, the third one the least. But overall it was still a very, very good series. It definitely made me fall in love with her writing and her writing style. So then I have The Inmate by her, which I haven't read, but I want to get to fairly soon. I have The Boyfriend, which I just read like last week, and I love that one. I think that's my new favorite book of hers. I've heard mixed reviews, but personally I really liked it. I loved the twist at the end. So then I have a couple of older books that were gifted to me by my boyfriend's grandma, and that is Gone Girl, and then 2 books by Stephen King, Billy Summers, and The Institute. So then next I have my Jennifer Lynn Barnes stack, and on top I have another little like piplup that I made, and then I have a couple of these scattered around my room. They're just like little fake plants from IKEA. But I have the Natural series. I've read the first book in that one, and I never finished the rest of the series. But that's one that I really do want to get to. I just, like I said, I struggle with some of these like mystery thriller type series. And then I have the first 2 books in the Inheritance Games. I read both of these ones, and then I stopped the series because I was waiting for the third one to not only be released, but be released as paperback to match, and then just never got back into it. So I know I have a lot of catching up to do with that series. I don't really have a place for them. I'm not sure where I'm going to put the Dead Romantics. I honestly don't know if I'm going to keep this book. I feel like I bought it when it was super hyped up, and then personally I'm not really intrigued by it anymore, but I still hold on to it just in case. But then I have Indigo Ridge by Daphne Perry, and I think this series, the whole series, has like a little bit of like a romance with a subplot of mystery. So I kind of ran out of room. I'll show you guys my romance books in a little bit, but I kind of ran out of room for more books there. And then the last thing I have here, just kind of holding the books up, is this little like fake candle from Walmart, and I just liked the shape of it. So then the next shelf all the way across are my hardcover books. Most of them are book of the month books, and there's only a couple at the far end that aren't. So I'm just gonna kind of speed run through these because the majority of them I haven't read. But on the shelf I keep this little M candle that one of my friends got me, and I don't know, I just think it's really pretty, so it just stays on the shelf. But over here I normally have Ninth House, but it is pulled out. I'll show you that in a second. I haven't read it. I have Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. I haven't read that one. Apples Never Fall by Leanne Moriarty. I haven't read. Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I have read. The Collective. I haven't. Five Broken Blades. I have not. I know this one was popular for a while. No One Can Know. I have read that one. Things He Saved in a Fire. I haven't read this one. I've heard good things about Catherine Center, but I don't know, I feel like this book is different than I thought it was going to be. This Spells Love by Kate Robb. I really wanted to get to this one in October, but I just didn't have time. Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I haven't read this one yet either. I know it was like the book of the year. And Half Sick of Shadows. It was a retelling of like Arthur the Great, I think. I have read that one. The Golden Couple, I read. It was like a domestic thriller, I think. Darling Girl, I haven't read. It's a Peter Pan retelling. Maidens by Alex Michaelides, I have read. You're Invited is about like a murder at a wedding, I think. I haven't read that one. Babel, I haven't read this one, and honestly the length of it is just really intimidating. Peach Blossom Spring is another one that isn't necessarily a genre I would reach for, but I've heard lots of good things about it. Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I'm hoping to get to this one very soon. I think this was another book of the year, but I need to read Part of Your World first. Not a Happy Family, I have read. None of This Is True by Lisa Joy. I haven't read this one, but I want to get to that one at some point. I've only read one book by Lisa Jewell, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about that book, so I want to read another book by her to kind of get a better picture. Once There Were Wolves, I have not read. The Last Thing He Told Me. I did read that, and that was one of the first books that I read when I got back into reading, and I enjoyed it, and I think I heard it's being turned into a movie, and that makes me happy because I feel like I remember the whole time reading it, like I could like picture it being a movie in my head. Upstairs, I haven't read that one. The Last Word by Taylor Adam, I haven't read. The Writing Retreat, I have not read. Dark Corners, I haven't read. The Guest List, I have read, and I like this one quite a bit. I think that's my favorite Lucy Foley book so far. Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. I read this one, I absolutely loved it. It's my favorite Alice Feeney book I've read. Love on the Brain, I have not read. The X-Hex, I read this and the second book in the series, and they were both just very good, like fall atmospheric books. When I'm Dead, I have not read. The Soulmate, I haven't read. The Lies I Tell, I did read this one. I don't really remember much about it though. Everything We Didn't Say, I haven't read. The Family Game, I haven't read. Love Hypothesis, I haven't read this one, and I need to. I keep telling myself I need to read it. And The Fury, I have read. I didn't love it. I have another Lisa Jewell book, The Night She Disappeared. Again, I need to read another one of her books to just kind of figure out how I feel about her writing. Adelaide, I have read. Lucy Foley's The Paris Apartment, I read. I liked The Guest List better. The Kiss Curse, this one had a ton of banter, but it was also still like witchy fall vibes, which was fun. Lock Every Door by Riley Sager, I have not read. Reckless Girls, I have read, and I didn't like it. And then these are a couple of random hardcovers. I have Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare and A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. Alright, so then this bottom shelf is where things start getting a little bit disorganized, but I just kind of have a bunch of older series. Yeah, so these are all a bunch of older books. I would love to do a reread of some of these. So up along the top, I kind of ran out of room for them. I have the Lightning Thief series. I remember reading this and really enjoying it. I think I read the first 3 and then never finished it, and now you can't get the paperback versions, so I never owned the last one, so I have to have that one in hardcover, which really upsets me. Then I have the Selection series, which I haven't read, but I feel like this would be like a fun, kind of like Shatter Me, where it was just kind of like a quick read. I have the Ugly series, which I actually liked a lot more than I thought I would. This was truly one of the first books that I read when I started getting back into reading, and they were just fast-paced and really easy to get through. Then I have the Twilight series. I bought these when they were first coming out, and that's why I have the hardcover of Breaking Dawn. And I think I read the first 2, and I feel like I read them more just because they were so hyped up and everyone was reading them, more so than because I loved them. So then I have the Maze Runner series, and then I don't know what the series is even called, but it's The Life as We Knew It. I've never read these. I think I started reading the first one and then kind of never went past that point. The Maze Runner, I've only ever read the first book. That's the only one in that series I've read. And then on the edge here I have Divergent. I read the first 2 and never read the third one. So that's another one that I remember really liking the concept of it, and I really enjoyed the first one. But a lot of books that I read in high school I would like read over summer, and then I would like run out of time and get back into school and then never continue the series. So then this last section is honestly very disorganized and just kind of like a pile of a bunch of random books. But I have the boxed set of City of Bones. What is this one even called? The Shadowhunters series. I want to get into this one, and that's why I bought the box set, but I just don't really have a different place to put it because it is such a large series. On top of that, I have a bunch of random books. I have a few like historical fiction, historical books. I have one that I just read for school. And then I have Someone Named Ava and Number the Stars. These are books that I loved when I was in like elementary school, and so they've just moved with me through every single move that I've ever made. And then I have Half a Life, which was a book I read for school, and Cage of Stars, which I don't really even know what that one's about, but it's another one I bought in high school and thought sounded interesting. Then over here I have The Hate List and Column, and then I have Falling Home, which is another one that I don't know what it's about, that I just randomly picked up. So then these are other books that I had from middle school. I remember being in elementary school and I loved the Shadow Children's books, if you guys know what those books are. I feel like they were a pretty popular series. I feel like that was my introduction into like dystopian books, but these 3 books are by the same author, and they're about kids who were like rescued from the past, and so they were like famous people from the past that have been rescued and like are now just living like regular lives as kids, but then they traveled back to like their original era. The second 2 books in the Matched series, we read the first one for school one year and I really liked it, so I bought and read the next 2 books in the series. It was, you know, very romance heavy but still dystopian. Then I have The Fault in Our Stars, which I read when I was younger. I have Confessions of the Sullivan Sisters. This one was a cute book. I remember reading it, and it's like told in stories written to a grandma who was like not gonna give her inheritance away unless the siblings all apologized for something that they did. And The Boy in the Wooden Box is another book similar to Someone Named Ava and Number the Stars. I randomly have a dictionary. I have Sisters of Song and Sword. This was one that I picked up at Barnes & Noble randomly. I probably shouldn't even be on the shelf. I should move it up with some of my other fantasy books. But I later found out that this is by Rebecca Ross, who wrote Divine Rivals. So then I have, in the very corner here, sorry, I'm like tucked back behind my reading chair, but in the very back corner here I have a bunch of like classics and a couple random ones. I have Hit and Run and The Face on the Milk Carton, and I have Lord of the Flies, Old Yeller, To Kill a Mockingbird. I've read all of those ones for school. And then I have The Catcher in the Rye, which I haven't read, but I heard lots of good things about it, so I picked it up. Euripides, I think it's Euripides. I had to have that for school. I have Flowers for Algernon, which I used to say was my favorite book, and it's still a book that I like really enjoy, but I picked that up in high school, honestly, just to read for fun. And then I have 1984, which is another one that I went through a phase where I picked up books that were like classics and read them because I think it was To Kill a Mockingbird so much that I just like picked up a bunch of other classics. I have Great Expectations, which I never read. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, I never read. The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, I did read, and that's why I picked up the other ones. These are all like part of like the Barnes & Noble Classics collection. I have The Call of the Wild, which I read and enjoyed. And then the last book on my main bookshelf is Little Women, which I read for school, and at the time, absolutely hated. I don't know if I would feel the same way if I read it now, but I think I read it I think it had to have been like going into my freshman year of high school. We had to pick out like a classic book and like read it and write a report on it over summer. And reading like that just made me hate books so much, because what 14-year-old wants to read a classic book? Like, I would much rather have read so many other books. Alright, so then the last of my books are on this book cart, which I just recently got. So if you guys watched my blindly picking my November TBR, you would recognize these books. So these are the books on my November TBR, so I kind of pulled them from my shelves and placed them here just as like an easy place to get to books that are on my radar. So on here I have Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, Home Before Dark by Riley Sager, Never Lied by Frida McFadden, The Maze Runner, When in Rome by Sarah Adams. I have I don't know what they're called, manga of Sailor Moon. And then this one wasn't in the video, but it's a book that is still like on my like priority TBR, and that's The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. So then the very last place that I have books are the bottom shelf of my TBR cart. These ones aren't all like books that I haven't read, but this is just kind of my romance section, and I don't know, my books just fit really nicely here, so I feel like they didn't match the rest of my shelves. I didn't really have a place for romance books. On here I have my Elsie Silver books. I have Wild Love, which I haven't read, and then I have Heartless, which is the second book in the Chestnut Spring series. I've read the first two books in that series, and then I have Powerless and Hopeless that I haven't gotten to. So then I have Love and Gelato, which I read. I feel like this one is a little less romance. It's a little kind of like mystery mixed in there as well, but it kind of went better with these books than anywhere else. In a Holidays by Christina Lauren, I read. It's a nice like Christmas book. The Deal by Elle Kennedy, I haven't read this one yet, but I bought it in case I'm ever in the mood for like a romance series. And then I have the Rule Book and the Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. I've read both of these and I enjoyed them. It's why I have When in Rome on my TBR now. The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. I just picked this one up for my birthday, and I have no plans of reading it right away, but I think it would be a perfect book to read like next spring or summer. I have Love and Other Words. I haven't read, but I keep putting it on my TBR. And then I have Every Summer After and Meet Me at the Lake. I read both of these ones and I didn't love either of them. They both had tropes that I just didn't really enjoy. And then the last one over here is I have Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I really want to get to this one pretty soon, but I just haven't been in a romance mood recently. So the last couple of books are a few that I just keep on the back, and I don't know. They're books that are definitely not my typical genre, which is why I feel like I just have them kind of hidden. But they are my dark romance books. I have Promises and Pomegranates and Hooked. I feel like Hooked I could potentially get into. I think this one is a little less on, like they're all, it's gonna be a spicy romance, but I think it's a little less intense than Promises and Pomegranates. This one was, it was fine, but it was definitely not my type of book. This cart normally just sits right next to my shelf in this open space here. And at some point I want to get some kind of like bookish artwork to put up on the wall above that cart. But that is going to be it for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed my bookshelf tour, and I want you guys to comment down below your favorite book that you saw on my shelves. I feel like there's so many favorite books that I can't personally pick like which one is my absolute favorite, but there's definitely a ton of books on here that I would love to get to. But like I said, that's gonna be the end of today's video. If you guys liked it, subscribe to my channel. I post videos every week, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.